most of you already know Subhash. He has been with Paid Forward Network since 2017, and he retired from BP after working there for 35 years. At the moment, he is really pursuing different hobbies of him, of his own, as well as he's doing some consulting on the side and working strongly with our PiFNP network. And also, he's the one who really started discussing this issue of panel discussions, even though I had it in mind, but I never put it up because some of the constraints, as I see, is that getting people together, 3 to 5 panelists at a given time. However, we are going to try it, and it's not that we are eliminating our training program. Training program will still be there, but we may alternate or as we see it fit whenever either training or panel discussions. So having said all of that, I would like to hand it over to Subhash, please. Subhash, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Salim, and thanks all for attending. So as Salim and others have mentioned, we're adding this panel discussion in our PIFN training program. We will mix it with other topics. We will alternate it between training and this. And the whole idea for this panel discussion is to try to engage everyone as opposed to like a classroom type, a professor and students type of atmosphere. We want to create somebody leads the discussion, but no one just sits back and listens only. They also need to, bring forth their ideas, what they think of it. And for that, what's going to be is the topics are going to be of general interest. They're not going to get into a detailed aspect of technology within this session. There have been other discussions that talked about details of these technologies, but for panel discussion, we'll stay at a higher level, kind of broad discussion, but looking changes in the industry, trends in the industry, and think in that aspect. So 2 reasons. One, to engage everybody, and also we understand our industry is going through some structural changes. Whether we all appreciate it or not, rapidly the industry is changing. And as a result, there are some transformational things that are happening. And therefore, we also want to bring those transformational topics as opposed to just regular topics that we have been doing in training. So there will be some different topics, different ideas that we'll try to bring in these panel discussions so people can benefit from it. They can plan ahead, they can think about their skills, refreshing their skills and those kinds of ideas. So the first topic along that line that all of us selected a couple of weeks ago is data science. So data science, as you know, is a hot topic in the industry right now, especially if you work in the unconventional resource recovery. It's a very hot topic. And some of us know something about it. Some of us know a lot about it. And some of us just heard data science. So some of the discussions that we will do today would be like, why is this a hot topic in our industry to begin with? Could it really lower the development cost and increase profitability of the companies? In what ways is it going to help? And if I want to learn about it, where could I go get more information? How could I develop skills in this area? So these are kind of the types of general discussions that we will go into in a panel session. As opposed to, last week when Sunil Garg talked about data science, he was delving deep into it and talking the data science as such. But here we're just going to talk about topics of general interest. So to help this discussion, to get started, we have invited 3 panelists, and they will start addressing the questions. But again, then everybody else will get involved. So our first panelist is Dr. Mamdouh Shebel. Dr. Shebel is a familiar face in this PIFN. And Dr. Shebel has over 35 years of expertise in conventional and unconventional reservoir characterization and development, sedimentary rocks and sedimentation, petroleum geology and geochemistry, as well as petrophysics. He has been a professor at Texas A&M University, has been an advisor at Chevron and Halliburton, and he has a PhD in petroleum geology, geochemistry from the University of Wyoming. So just wanted to say hi.
Thank you.
Mamdouh.
Thank you very much.
Our second panelist is Dr. Mahali Randrianavoni. Mahali, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name, so please correct it when you address.
It's fine.
He has held various positions in product development, data interpretation, in operations with oil service companies, Schlumberger, Halliburton, for over 30 years. In the latest years, he was mostly in the development and application for analysis and interpretation of data from formation testing and formation fluid sampling devices. He's a data science practitioner with focus on machine learning, both inside and outside the oil and gas domain. So welcome, Mahali.
Thank you.
Our third panelist, who is not here yet, but expected to be here very soon, is Sunil Garg. I guess most of you have attended his sessions in the last week or two. He's a founder and CEO of a company called Data Vedic, a Houston-based startup building a hyper-converged data and analytics platform for oil and gas industry. Prior to this, he spent 20 plus years establishing and growing data management, big data, and analytics business and for Schlumberger. Sunil has a deep understanding of oil and gas data, data science, machine learning, and uses the combination to build end-user-centric solutions. He is a former member of several industry organizations like SPE, AAPG, etc. So Sunil is not here, but we'll welcome him when he comes in. But we will get started with the questions for the panelists and our discussions, if it's okay for you. All right. So my first question is going to be addressed to Dr. Mamdouh. And I guess we're just going to ask his opinion about this. So Mamdouh, as you can agree, as you will agree, the oil and gas prices are going to face a lot of pressure in the future for various reasons. You know, there are headwinds. Right now, there's a headwind from the COVID issues, but later on, medium term, longer term, there'll be headwinds from competition, from renewable, other sources, climate change issues. And so the prices are expected to be kind of suppressed, depressed, even though right now it looks okay, actually. But in the long run, it's never, now, I guess the expectation is it's not going to see those big oil price days.
Mm-hmm.
And so the future will force us as an operator to develop the field with fewer wells, not injecting highly expensive chemicals in EOR and those sorts of things. So do everything low cost. And I guess we're bringing technologies such as data science, for example, here and saying, is this actually a technology that can be applied in our industry to actually be competitive in a lower cost environment? And so my question to you, Mamdouh, is, do you think it has that, or it is some kind of fancy statistical analysis and that sort of thing? What is it? Help us understand that and kind of get into it in a critical way, you know, which part is good, which part is bad, and get us started. And then we also would like to follow up with some audience questions later.
Okay, to start, if we remember, the one of us who worked, and I think most of us worked in the oil industry, in the last 20 years at least, and maybe much more longer than that, a company I worked for, they were always complaining about cost, that it costs so much, how can we cut costs, how can we increase revenue, and the stock prices and so on. And also we have to understand that the oil industry by nature is cyclic in nature, including the prices. The prices fluctuate quite a bit, almost daily, based on not only demand and supply, but also on the conditions around us, the industry, the supply chain, and so many variables, including the climate change, as you addressed. But nothing more important and more clear that you see this control of price change on the oil industry as in developing unconventional reservoirs. Unconventional reservoirs, by their nature, from the beginning, are labor intensive and cost intensive. And because of that, they would require that a simple well might cost $4 million. And it grows up quickly up to $12 or $14 million per well to develop an unconventional or a shale oil, for example. Take that and multiply it by 100 wells need to be drilled, or up to 1,000 wells per company in their field. So the prices are adding up very quick. Now, most of these companies accumulating data on a daily basis and even on hourly basis, from the drilling rigs, from the production lines, from the reservoirs, from the logging stuff. All these data are, for the longest time, being kept in a storage. They are coming very fast, coming in different format, and some companies don't have the manpower to deal with it. Other companies have the manpower to deal with it, but they don't have the time or the priority to deal with it, or the money to deal with it. So in either way, they store it. This data comes, most of it, in digital form, either as well logs, seismic lines, drilling reports, and so on and so forth. These digital data, if you store it, it becomes, no matter how valuable they become useless. So the oil industry in the last 5 years or so started recognizing that they are sitting down on a huge amount of digital data. But the digital data itself comes from different sources, from different formats, and from different usages. So again, to deal with this data, you would need the data scientists to basically sift through this data and get you the most usable data and organize this data so it becomes of a semi-structured or structured format where you can get some use out of it. So yes, data science can help a lot in the oil industry, especially in unconventional reservoirs, to give them a more usable and more useful data from the data sets that you already have. Okay, or they can easily accumulate, or they can buy, or can share between companies. So again, the idea of data management and data science and data analytics going back into the oil industry is a natural progression of science that being in the digital age now, that all our data is on the internet, on a storage in a digital format. We can get any of this data in a click of a button, but in what usage you are interested in this data? Why do you want this data in particular, and in what format? So again, I think data science and data management and data analytics can help a lot. And if you use this data, you can lower the cost quite a bit.
Okay, thanks, Mamdouh, for this introductory comment. I guess if we want to drill down into it, and I would let audience ask questions. By the way, welcome, Sunil. We introduced you in your absence, but you're most welcome to add.
Can we take a pause, Subhash?
Say that again.
Can we take a pause for Chris to take pictures?
Okay, all right.
And then we'll continue with the same one.
All right.
Chris?
Yes.
You go ahead and take the pictures, please.
Yeah, but let everybody turn on their video,
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, can you show up in video? Eric, are you there?
No picture today, thanks.
Okay.
You're done?
Okay, I got it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Before you start, I just want to ask all three panelists, you are okay in our recording of this panel discussion?
yeah. I'm okay with it.
Sunil, you are okay?
Yep. Okay.
Ali, you are okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Carlos, continue with your recording, please, and Subhash, take it over, please.
Okay, okay. So this will be follow up to the first question, and thank Mamdouh for his starting. And Mamdouh, I guess you started the, how data science came about and how industry operators can use the data. But I'll go back to the sort of the critical nature of this question is, so can data science actually replace drilling of a well or a completion of a well? Or can I avoid using EOR in the field because I can do the same with data science at a much lower cost? That's kind of where the question is headed. And I welcome comments from other panelists as well on that. Yeah.
Okay. My personal belief, no, it cannot replace. Okay. Data science can manage, can guide, can improve human behavior, but cannot replace it. So again, in production and development, And in mitigation, in the oil industry, you need interventions. You need to do some activities. So the data science can guide you and give you a better management of your resources. For the last 15 years, since the beginning of the unconventional reservoir, unconventional drilling was based on basically factory mode infill that just randomly or even in a systematic way haphazardly fill the space between the wells on a particular spacing that the company will decide and see what you get out of it. It turned out to be that about 70 to 80% of the wells that were drilled came to be dry wells or uneconomic wells. Data management can guide us toward how better drill, how quicker to drill, how cheaper to drill, how safer to drill, but drilling would be still necessary. The amount of drilling can be managed based on what you get from your data science, from your overall analysis of your field and your plans of development. But you will never be able to replace the drilling. Yes, you might be able to reduce it, but not replace it. The same thing in production. Okay, if you want to ramp up production, you have to do certain activities. You cannot do it on a single well. You have to get additional wells to support your production plan. So all that data management can guide and direct you toward the proper way to manage your reservoir, develop your reservoir, reduce your reservoir, and more important, in unconventional reservoirs, where additional side problems can occur during all these activities.
Okay, thanks, Mamdouh. I'll let other panelists or participants address this topic if they want to right now.
Let me adjust a few comments to what Mamdouh said, right? So he gave, in fact, very good examples of how data science can play a role. And like he said, data science is essentially not a replacement for your conventional, either, let's say planning or any other operation, right? It should be used as a way. The way I would summarize it is it should be used as a way to make faster and reliable decisions, right? You want to increase the speed of your decisions so that you can take decisions at the right time, especially in unconventional operations where time is a very key ingredient. You want to make reliable decisions so that you don't come up with, let's say in case of drilling, you don't come up with dry wells, right? Or you don't end up drilling wells which only last for a few months. Right? So that's where I think the reliability of the decision making helps, and data science can play a good role in both of these. In addition to that, I would also say data science can help with specific pain points or with specific steps in the process where the solution or the currently existing solutions with traditional methods are either too expensive or maybe they take too much time. So it can cut down the operation time itself, not just the planning time, but can also cut down the operation time because the traditional solution may be too expensive or takes too much time. And sometimes it can also provide you a 80% solution, which may be good enough basically, rather than trying to shoot for a 100% physically correct solution. Right? So that's another way where data science can be very helpful. Also, it can help you discover things that you may not have seen before with your traditional methods or may not have guessed before, may not have planned for before. So that would be another use, I would say, of data science, is to kind of learn from, let's say, past, right, by discovering things which we may not have seen before.
Okay.
Okay.
Audience from the participants.
I
Salim,
have something.
Jeffrey, I have
Subhash.
to point to people now. Yes.
Subhash.
Yes, Mahali.
Okay. When how many of you are SP? None?
I didn't get a question.
What did you say?
How many of you are SPE members?
I'm an
Oh.
SP member. I'm an SP member.
Yes.
Because, you know, when I prepared this panel, I realized all of our question, okay, we have the answer for free at all of these SPE's websites. So, something, can I share my screen quick?
Sure. Please. You have to make it him a host, co-host, please.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mohali.
Go ahead, share your screen, please.
Okay, let's do it. Share my screen, this one here. Can you see my screen right now?
Is this your screen? Yeah,
Yes.
you can blow it,
Upload it?
enlarge it.
Yeah, you don't see it?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Now you have
So-
blown it. Yeah.
Okay, this is just a quick kind of presentation, but because I need to have some keyword, that's why afterwards. So data science, of course, is a big domain. There's different way to explain it. This one on the left is one way to explain to present it. Basically, data science encompasses any domain, analytics, machine learning, big data. The machine learning itself is part of artificial intelligence, and even machine learning is deep learning, which is basically a subset to depends on how we define it of neural network. It's just to have some keywords like machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning. Why I do that is because you should know if you are SP members, there's another website called the One Petro that is also free for SP members. Which is the repository for all the SP's papers. Okay, so what I did, I went to One Petro. Let me move this one. And then if I went to One Petro, let me double check this one here. Okay. This is, if you go to One Petro enables you to make a research, okay? It will give extract of all the research, okay? And I missed that. That's what I wanted to show this, but I'm back to this one. Okay. So when you do the research on some keywords like artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural network, deep learning, you can see that research on the title, only on the title. You see how many papers we already have on One Petro. That means that this is not new at all. Data science has been there for a while, maybe under a different name, but it has been there for a while. So this is the total numbers, all the papers that has these keywords in the title. And this one is the one from 2015. So artificial intelligence has been there forever.
Mohali,
somehow.
if I can interrupt just a second, it's not clear to me, I don't know about others, what question you're trying to answer.
What I'm trying to, so I check in the papers published by SPE, the papers that has these keywords in the title.
Okay, so what is the question you're trying to answer?
But this is not new. Data science is not new in the oil and gas business.
Okay, are you saying that data science is not new in oil and gas business?
Yes, it's not that new.
Okay.
But this, of course, it's newer than some
Right. Now, I get it. And we have some other questions that will go toward that. But for this question, the idea is can it lower the development cost? If you were to drill, if you had planned to drill 8 wells per section, could application of data science help us drill only 4 wells in that section?
So
If you are trying to do EOR to get incremental 5% oil recovery, could data science get you more recovery or fewer injection of EOR chemicals? So look at the cost side of it and see does data science help directly doing that? That's the question.
okay,
So I'm sorry for interrupting, but we need to stick to these questions because that's what's important in this.
Yes.
Can we address these things
Okay.
critically, or can we just talk in general about data science, understand, but how does it help in cost reduction?
so go. Okay,
Can I say something?
let me go back to the O1 Petro again. Okay. I guess this one here. My point is we have many answers to your question. Okay. This is mostly papers, doesn't talk about cost, but before talking about cost, we have to know what we're talking about. All right. So my point is here in these papers, for example, regarding the shale, this is on machine learning. I mean, paper machine learning title, we have about 13,000 papers. Now you can divide in different. Okay, you may see it lot of all the subject that I want. So what they did was, for example, I go to Shale. I think the shades unconventional shale work. I show to you. Where's Shale? Just definition unconventional.
Okay, while you're looking, I think there was a hand raised. Was it Paul? Did you want to add something to this topic, please?
Sure, yeah. I'm going to start. My background is petroleum, reservoir engineering, mergers, acquisitions, management. I'm not a data scientist, but I have led teams in the unconventionals. And 20 years ago, when I came to the States, it was on a project looking at real-time workflows. And we didn't know what data science was back then. We knew there was a lot of analysis that needed to take place. What we managed to solve, looking at where is the sensor, or is it located? How's the data transmitted? Where's it stored? How do you access it? What's the quality? How do you load it into a machine to actually analyze? What's the quality of your analysis and what decisions you make? All adds lots of value. And we created methods to try and evaluate quantitatively and qualitatively the improvement we were doing in the feasibility study. And I'm sure you've all heard this recently. We did it 20 years ago. You're saving me 80% of my time looking for data. So that's part of it. To be a data scientist or user, you must have the data in the first place. So that's part of it. But once you have it, when I was managing the Eagleford subsurface for a company I was in, we had people at spot fire and various machines going for lots of things. Machine learning is going to help you bring a myriad of information together and make sense of what it's trying to tell you. And in doing so, it's going to help you focus on what's probably the right decision to make. Because remember, when we make money, it's based on the decisions we make based on prior experience or data analysis. So far as I can see, with machine learning, if we had machine learning back 15, 20 years ago when we were doing this feasibility study, we'd have added a lot more value. And machine learning, or setting up a system in a company to actually make this work, to bring it to the right people, to make the right decisions, is a lot cheaper than drilling 2 or 3 wells. We estimated years ago the value of this in one offshore asset to the North Sea, $18 oil, was worth in the tens to $100 million. I was just on a webinar the other day where someone was talking about something similar to this, and they estimated $10 million per year value. Now, you can't come to me and say it's exactly 10 million. I can't tell you that, no. But the ability to give people the chance to make more faster and informed decisions, I am absolutely convinced, because I've seen it, it's going to give you a rate of return far in excess of drilling wells. So again, without specific evidence in front of me, I am absolutely convinced something like this could, for an example, say you don't need to drill 8 wells, you need to drill 6 wells, but this way, and it will add you lots of value. And I'm quite amazed, actually, at the industry. We're still kind of struggling with some companies to apply this kind of technology. When companies like, you know, Facebook, Google, Amazon, all these nautical companies, they manage to manipulate our data very successfully behind our backs and improve the value of their companies substantially. Maybe we should be looking to those to work out how we bring that kind of technology to the oil industry and how they do it. But that's all I have to say. But I have some experience of this, and I know it's valuable.
Okay, Mahali, can you wrap up your what you were looking for so other participants can ask questions?
Yes, I do. So as I told you, I found about 1,200 papers on using machine learning. Then I focused only on the one that dealing with shale oil. There are about 92 of them. Okay. Well, though you can get the abstract for free, okay, but the paper you have to pay for $10. If you go into all the abstracts, that's what they did for this purpose, at least, you realize that in fact, the machine learning usage for shale right now are mostly focused on 3 domains. One is in improving the DCI, you know, the decline curve analysis. Okay. Number one is is used mostly for well completion optimization. Okay, to check how many stages, how long it should be, and so on and so on. And then the third one is the hydraulic fracturing optimization. So my point is, at least the technical question might be not the price, because this is mostly scientific. Papers, not economic at all. Even so, some of them might have economics data, but my point is just going to on Petro, at least you would know what is not the focus of the people by using data science.
Okay, okay, thanks. I guess you are giving some help, providing some help where the literature is on the data science. So thanks. Look,
and the focus, like, and the focus.
Did you want to add anything else, Mamdouh?
Yes, actually, I agree with Paul a lot in his comment. However, I will go back not only 20 years, but 40 years. Again, data analytics is not new. The data analysis is something that we do naturally. Again, we learn in school, in mathematics, and so on. So again, however, what we did in the 1980s by a ruler and color pencils is what we can do that digitally now on an Excel sheet or on a map. And now with the machine learning, we can do it with the assistance of a machine. The idea behind it is basically reduce your correlation and then see if this correlation exists somewhere else. That's the bottom line, or the simplistic way of looking into data analytics, going from data analysis to data analytics. But again, there is nothing new since 1980 at least. I go maybe further than that, but at least at 1980 until today, we have been doing the very same thing in different things, maybe in a smaller increment based on one log or one well or one suite of logs or one zone. But now with the digital data and the ability to amalgamate data from different sources and see structured data with unstructured data and mix them together and see the relationship between them in 2-dimension and 3-dimension, because they are all in numbers and digitals in zeros and ones. then that's the revolution here. The revolution is the speed and the ability of directing your analysis into the right direction.
That's absolutely right. It's not just a case of improved decision quality, which is very important, but also the speed of the decision. If I make a fantastic decision today and I should have made it on Monday, it could be useless. I totally agree with you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thanks to both of you. I want to get some other members of the audience involved. So Jeffrey, Salim, do you have any questions related to this first item?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is Salim. Well, I heard all of you discussing about it. My question is that when you have well, Mamdu would know it better, homogeneous field, we are talking about reducing the number of wells to be drilled so that it's a cost management. Instead of 8 wells, whether we can do it with 6 wells or 4 wells or 2 wells. And data science is going to help us. But on the other hand, if we have got not a homogeneous oil field, but a heterogeneous in character, in that case, I'm not sure unless data science evolves to a stage. It is evolving. 40 years you mentioned, Mamdu. And now after 40 years, if this is not a high enough time for us to have these data assimilated in a way to reduce the number of wells to be drilled, not dry holes, because we are getting at the moment 70 to 80% wells that we drill are dry holes. So in that case, in a heterogeneous environment, are you sure data science is going to be really able to help us unless it evolves to an extremely better state than it is at the moment? And having said that, I think operational efficiency is about what Sunil said. Yes, I agree totally. It will improve our operational efficiencies and cut the costs from that perspective.
To answer your question in a simple way, yes. Again, if you do a clear and precise identification of your characteristics that you are looking for, reservoir characteristics or the correlation that you are looking for, or build the model, as they say, in a precise way, then you can go back even in a very heterogeneous environment and pick the sweet spots. There is a saying in engineering that's very dangerous here, that if you have a lot of heterogeneity, if you average it, it becomes homogeneous. But that's dangerous. You don't need to do that, because not every homogeneous medium is homogeneous. If it's homogeneous because of the averaging of the mathematical, that they are so heterogeneous, there is so variation everywhere, it becomes homogeneous, you miss the point. You miss the point that in this heterogeneous environment, there's a small spots of homogeneous or well-productive zones. So if you can pinpoint only the productive zones and look for those quickly and precisely through precise data analysis and data analytics and precise models, then you can limit your expenses, or you increase your success. I'll give you another example. Okay, in fracking, there was an estimate if you are to eliminate one set of non-contributing fractures, artificial fractures, you can pay for the entire suite of well logging for that well. So just eliminating 1 or 2 stages of non-contributing fractures during fracturing, that by itself is a plus. Now, in a normal fracturing, how can you identify the zones that are very contributing and eliminate the zones that's non-contributing? that comes from the overall distribution of your well trajectory through the zone along the entire lateral of the well. And if you can pick the criteria that describe your productive zones versus the criteria for the non-contributing zones, then you can redesign your fracture distribution or your frac program for the next well. If the next well is in the very same area with the same distribution, then you can make your fracs design to target only the producing zones and eliminate the non-contributing zones. So that's just a simple example, a general example on that.
Well, to add to what Mamdu you said, I have a little bit more to say. Okay, we're talking about fracturing comes into play after we drill the well successfully. But I was referring to, with respect to the sweet spot identification and minimizing the number of wells to drill to explode a field or discover a field or to develop a field. So
Yes.
once we go to the development stage, then after that, it comes the issue of whether it's really a field that we need to frack. Or
Yes.
without the fracking, we can do away with the job. So that's where you added about the fracturing part. Yes, you can do the fracture improvement by looking at the stage fracturing as to which zones, which part of the fracture lateral contributed, which ones it did not. And based on that, and if you put the proper criteria, then probably you'd be able to identify how to improve the fracturing and optimize the fracturing, I believe.
Yes, but the critical part of data analytics here is getting or capturing what you learned from your current activities into going back and look the entire data set that you have and see if you can distribute this knowledge and this criteria through the entire data set and use that for the future development, for the future activities. So it's not based only on controlling what you are doing right now. It is learning from what you are doing right now, from the data analysis, from the data collection, from the data structuring and building your model based on your current data and all the previous data as much as you can to go into the future to guide how you behave for the next well and next well and next well and next basin and so on. So it's not only to guide you for the present, but also for the future.
Okay, moving on to a different question. And this will be addressed to Sunil first. And if he doesn't want to answer, then it can move to somebody else. Sunil, how can either a new or experienced petroleum engineer in the industry go about developing his or her skills in data science?
That's a great question, Subhash, first thing, because that is the question that is in the minds of a lot of people, right? So
right.
they all want to expand their skills.
Yeah.
And, considering the fact that most of, what we do with data science in oil and gas industry or broadly the energy industry, it also involves a lot of domain knowledge. Right, having that domain knowledge and starting from that base is actually itself a great starting point, rather than, let's say, starting from a computer science knowledge. Okay, so in order to develop the career, here are at least few ways that I would recommend, and I have seen people growing through these stages basically. So first one is broad understanding of the data. Right, forget about machine learning, forget about data science. We need to broaden our horizons in terms of understanding of the data. What I mean by that is, if you are a reservoir engineer, or if you are a petrophysicist, or if you are a geologist or a geophysicist, right? But in our normal day-to-day work, right, when we were dealing with, let's say, with our normal day jobs, we were mostly focusing on the workflows dealing with that domain only. It is critically important that when you want to develop a career in data science, you broaden that. If you are a geophysicist, maybe go and look at what a reservoir engineer does. What does that data look like? Because if you are unable to connect the data, right, that becomes a pretty big hurdle in doing anything more advanced. Yep. That would be first thing. The second thing I would say is, start small. Basically, start looking at, for example, right, one of the things that we tried to do last week that I was trying to do was kind of giving you an idea of what these end-to-end workflows look like. So these are more like, getting exposure, right? Next step, and I sent, in fact, a couple of resources last time in terms of links after the meeting, which have actually some more of my recorded webinars, one of which is actually a very short training. I do it sometimes for a day. I've also done, let's say, shorter versions of it for a couple of hours. These are kind of, things that are, you need to start. Just get some confidence to say, yes, I understand broadly at a higher level that I can do this. And then beyond that, in order to gain a little bit more deeper knowledge, there are lots of online courses that you can do in terms of, getting to understand data science algorithms, getting to understand different types of processing that you can do on the data. So that is very helpful generally in terms of learning. Of course, each one of this, one thing you would detect, as a common theme is they do require a little bit of programming knowledge. So even if, let's say, somebody is not coming from a programming background, my strong suggestion, at least get a working knowledge of, a Python or R or any programming knowledge is helpful basically, because, and you can get a lot of, code basically. There's a lot of code people publish both in GitHub as an open source repository. If you do a Google search, you can find, solutions to a lot of small problems basically there. So getting that kind of exposure, basically what it allows you to do is to, when you have the data, it allows you to explore the data pretty quickly, right? Before even, let's say, building advanced machine learning algorithms. Right? Once you are able to explore the data, that's where your ideas will come from. That's where, you say, well, based on my domain knowledge and the fact that I'm able to explore the data, here are different things I can do with the data. So those are the steps I would generally go through. For those who really want to make a full-time career in data science, maybe two different ways I can think of are, one is maybe go and get, a formal degree. There are lots of master's programs, including executive master's programs nowadays in data science, right? And the other is maybe working with a team, like, for example, my team, which is people coming from diverse backgrounds, but are solving real machine learning problems, right? Real problems using machine learning, working with basically a group of people who have complementary skills, basically. So that is another good way, basically, of, enhancing your skills. So those are some steps, at least, that I can think.
Thank you, Sunil.
And let's say, if anybody wants to go into more detail, I would be happy to.
Yeah, so I have a comment. First comment is that Ali Burton, about 5 years ago, began to hire young data science engineers. And then there was not enough. So in fact, 2 years ago, we decided to train all the petroleum engineers in the company sciences rather than getting data science people. That's one remark. So in fact, I got involved in this discussion because a few months back, I sent an email. I agree with Sunil 100%, data first, then, okay. So about a few months ago, I sent to everyone, to Selim, who distributed to everyone the email with a lot of links of what I found should be interesting if you want to be involved in data sciences. Maybe Selim wants to distribute again. I don't know, but I did it some month back.
Yeah.
One comment I want to make here. First, I agree 100% with what Sunil said. However, again, one way to look at it in the meantime or immediately is the fact that no one person can know everything. So the best way to deal with data and data science, and the quickest way possible is to build teams, teamwork. And to success or to succeed in teamwork, you need to understand the language of the other members of the team. You need to speak their language in a sense, basically, of if you are a petrophysicist, if a geologist, if an engineer, if a geophysicist, if a geochemist, if a data scientist, a mathematician, data management are all in one room, you need to be able to speak these 5 or 6 different languages in that room. So one thing that you need to do as a person to get yourself exposed to the other languages that in your company, basically talk to the engineers, talk to the geophysicists and so on and so forth, and ask them to show you and maybe briefly teach you what their data structure is and how can you make sense of it or how they make sense of it. So when it comes to you as a digital data, you are not surprised because there is so many, for the numbers that comes on the screen, there is so many structures. You need to understand these different data type and data structures and how can you mix them together or make sense of them and build a relationship between these different data types. You can't do it as a geologist because you are not a mathematician or you are not a data management or you are not a data analyst. So again, the best way is build a team and work with that team closely.
Anybody from the participants want to ask or elaborate on that question?
Well, one thing I wanted to add to it is that, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, when the first time Mamdouh made his presentation on data science, at that time, Mahali was an active participant in that, and he did send out a number of links so that people can go over with them to understand more about the data science and how to educate yourself. Those who attended that session, I distributed among those individuals only. Whatever he presented, sent out to me.
Okay, and what about the links that Sunil mentioned? Have they been distributed, Salim?
Sunil hasn't sent me anything that I know of. Sunil, did you? You thought you did.
I had. Yeah, Salim, last time after the meeting, I sent a mail back with the link to a site where some of my recordings are there. So that was, I mean, not only just the recording of what I did last time, but also additional learning material. So there are a bunch of recordings there. I don't know if you got it. Otherwise, I will just put it here if you want.
I must have missed it, so I have to look it up, and then once I identify it, then yes, I can forward it to last week's attendees.
I will just put it in the chat as well, at least one of them.
Okay.
Okay. So if there are no
Sanel, can you resend just to refresh? Can you resend it to Salim again so he can send it to us?
Absolutely, I will do that. I will put one link in the chat as well, but I will send it again.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. If there are no more follow-ups to this one, the next question, we're talking about environmental issues and especially the environmental issues below ground. So like seismicity, fault slippage, that kind of issues. And I guess the question is, I mean, the reason for the question is there's a lot of headwind, I guess, against our industry as we're not respectful of the environment, whether it's a subterranean environment or atmosphere. And so how could data science which is being used in unconventional development can help, mitigate those issues or can guide us better against any earthquake issues, seismicity issues, fault slippage that may be as a result of fracturing. So, so what are your thoughts on that? And Mamdouh, we'll ask you to kind of start this one, and then we'll ask that question to the other panelists as well.
Okay. The guideline here is to do your characterization of the problem properly. Basically, if you have seismicity and you have fear of slippage during fracturing along fractured zones or fault, major fault in the area, then you need to model, do your analysis for the regional stress distribution around the area, as well as the specific stress distribution in the zone of interest around the area that you are planning to do your future fracturing, based on your previous data or the historical data that you have, or you can get your hands on it. Once you build that model, then you already have a guidance of what to do or what not to do during your next fracking problem, so you can avoid that. But once you do that and you are confident in that, you can also use this as a way of communicating with the scientific community and with the public, with the scientific community, to prove to them or show them that you know what you are doing and you are already following the right steps to mitigate any future events or prevent any future events from happening. But once you get these scientists to your side, then you have allies to go together to the public and explain to them that there are some of these activities that's natural. There is nothing we can do about it. All what we can do is prevent it or prevent the effects that comes out of it. Some of it is because of our activities in the oil industry, and that's we are aware of. We are mitigating it. We are preventing any of the bad side effects that might come out or could come out of it. So once you do that, then you are not only legally protected yourself against any lawsuit because you already provided the public with the disclosure, but also you convince the public or the majority of the public that your activity is controlled. It's not haphazard, it's not dangerous. And even if there is any danger, it's very limited and controlled danger.
Very good.
So the best way to basically address the issue.
Very good. And you know, Mamdouh, that also helps in distinguishing, say, which one of these seismic event is happening from, say, water disposal wells, and which one is happening from, fracking wells. So kind of identify those things clearly.
Exactly. That's my point. My point to be very precise in your analysis and very clear about your models and the results, that you are not mixing and matching.
Yeah. Okay, other panelists, Mahali, Sunil, you want to add something to the environmental issues and how can data science help in those?
Yeah, so Subhash, I will add a few points. One is that, a lot of the data science workflows that we do, they are all geared towards optimization, right? What does optimization bring? It does not bring only reduction of the costs, right? So let's say you are trying to optimize the time, right? Time for the operations. You're also trying to optimize what is consumed during the operation. What materials I'm consuming, what am I injecting, right? And the goal is to get the maximum benefit by minimizing the resources that you are needing. So when you do that, think about that on a deeper level. You are not only controlling your costs, but at the same time you are also impacting the environment less and less. If I have lesser people on the rig, they are consuming less material. I have lesser consumption of energy, right? Lesser consumption of water. So every one of this contributes towards the environment. So that is the first part of it. Second is there are newer ways that you can think of, right? Especially around energy optimization, just purely power optimization, power consumed at the rigs and the platforms, right? So there are newer ways using data science to reduce that impact also. I know that's not the subsurface part of it, but still that adds to the environmental impact. Third one, I would say, which is around the monitoring. Okay? A lot of the new data science techniques can help you with much better monitoring. Right? You have microseismic data being continuously analyzed. Like Mamdou pointed out, you can very quickly say, well, is my earthquake really due to my activity, or there are other external factors impacting it, and how can we minimize the impact of that? So that continuous monitoring aspect of it will allow you to not only monitor, but also allow you to take quicker actions to say, how can I minimize the impact of the activity? Right? So that is the third aspect of it. Fourth one, I would say, is the planning aspect, which is using the data science, right? Not just during the operation, but also when you're planning for next operations, you're using those same data science techniques, not only again, just to look at how can I, improve my operational efficiency from the perspective of cost, but how can I reduce the impact on the environment, right? So typically, at this time, there is a lot of ESG pressure everywhere, and I really strongly feel that a lot of data science workflows, basically utilizing that, you can actually satisfy a lot of your ESG goals, because they, one way or the other, they contribute to the reduction of the carbon footprint of the entire operation.
But one additional hidden cost that people worry more about it and might cause a lot of trouble for the oil companies is safety. Safety, people worry about, oh, it might be expensive, it might delay the work and so on. But if you think about it and do it properly, it will save you time and money. And
preventing incidents and accidents, let's say.
Yes, and more than that, okay, will save your health and the health around you. So that's the best public relation aspect that you can give to the people who are worried about fracking or earthquakes or whatever activity that the oil industry is to stress that you as and using the science, using your data and data analytics to map and explore all health hazards and mitigate that. Plan for that ahead of time, so there is no surprises and no health or safety factors. That if you can get them all under control, that will be your best public relation campaign that you can do.
Okay.
Think of it as a, Subhash, as a, if you could prevent a Deepwater Horizon disaster, why we were monitoring the data continuously and could take a quicker action, right?
That can almost destroy a company, I guess, it's not
Exactly.
a little thing. Yeah. Okay. Any other participant you want to follow up on this environmental side, whether it's subsurface or above surface?
I would like to add to it. First of all, I think we need to have a better understanding of the stress regimes, the stress distribution, and the tectonics before we jump into these conclusions, because of the fact,
yes,
for example, the Anadarko Basin in, I think in Oklahoma, it is has a lot of naturally occurring fractures and faults. And if stresses are horizontal stresses, minimum horizontal and the maximum horizontal stresses and the vertical stress, if they are all three of isotropic or near isotropic, there will be one way of this behavior. On the other hand, if two horizontal stresses are isotropic, but they're not similar, identical to that vertical, there will be different behavior. A deep understanding of that is going to be able to help us in deciding whether it is going to be shear fractures or shear motion, shearing or slippage, in other words. Slippage, that is the one, compressional stresses does not cause you a tremor or earthquake, it's the shearing phenomenon that causes it, slippage. So that is from that perspective, if we do a deep understanding of the tectonics and the stress regimes, then we can employ data science together with it to get to a solution as to where we should frac in that environment or we should not. And then the other thing is that the other way of slippages happens is that when you have a disposal, if your pore pressure exceeds or effective stress reaches close to zero, at that time we will have a slippage. So really, if you know what the pore pressure is and what is the effective stresses resulting from that, then you can decide whether you should allow more disposal to occur in that particular region to avoid such occurrences, which is a part of environmental aspects as well, which is subsurface environmental aspects, I think.
What you said is very correct, Salim, but that's based basically on clear and good data analysis. The thing that, again, when we come to data, big data and data science and data management, is how can you take that in the other direction as well, in data analytics, in exploring and predicting and knowing from history or from your current activities what to do next or what not to do next. That will be the advantage of the data science into the future planning of current activities.
Okay. Anyone else on this environmental question? If not, then we move to the next question. I think I'm going to direct the next question to Mahali first. And Mahali, you answer it and others can pitch in and contribute as well. I think that question is, as a practicing data scientist, what do you see as emerging techniques that are developing in data science that will further help either lower the operating cost or optimize the development in some other way? So what are some of the techniques that are on the horizon? I know it's a developing technology. Some things are being practiced, but what are some of the new and exciting things that are happening that will help the industry?
I don't think we have to catch new stuff every time. We have already many techniques available to us to use. And one of the issues when you do data science is that you try to find some model. There are many models that are available, but the main thing is to try to figure out the one that is best. Use depends on so many parameters. Any technique, you have just to find the right one that is suitable for you.
Okay, so like Sunil mentioned, a lot of the programming, techniques that are being developed and how they are being used in application of data science. Are there some new and exciting things happening on the programming side or just domain side of data science or computer science.
So
Are there things happening in that area that can bring value to the oil and gas industry?
So once, I mean, you have the data science itself, and then you have the techniques and the practice. Okay, the data science itself is evolving, but you have already many algorithm and method you can use. Now on the practice side, it changes every day, but you don't. Once again, you don't have to catch up. We just have to use the one that are available. That's my point of view.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe Subhash, I can add something to that,
Sure.
basically, right? So in terms of, there are quite a few things happening, I would say, in the industry, which we can capitalize on. One is on the hardware side of things, right? New devices being developed, including nano devices, right? Which can help with not only lot of data collection, but large volume of data collection in a very short period of time, also handle a lot of streaming data, right? And also help to process that data quickly, right? So that's, that coupled with, let's say, large computing infrastructure in terms of the data processing infrastructure getting available, both in the form of clouds as well as in the form of other clusters, let's say, sitting either at the research facilities or in the commercial companies, right? So this is essentially, this is where, when we were thinking about, what was happening in the past versus what is new now, it's not necessarily that lots of new algorithms have developed, but there's a lot of new computing infrastructure which was not available, let's say, in 1980s or 90s. Even if the algorithm was well known, you could not really apply it and you could not get the results at the right time, right? So that is something that definitely, that is advancing a lot, including lots of new computer languages being developed as well, specific algorithms being developed, especially on the neural network side. The newer and newer, I would say, more sophisticated algorithms